We turn now to Mississippi, where 6 white former police officers who called themselves the Goon Squad have pleaded guilty to raiding a home and torturing 2 black men earlier this year, after first trying to cover up their actions. Some of the officers face life in prison. On January 24th, court records show the deputies raided a home in Braxton, Mississippi, after a white neighbor of one of the officers called them to complain there were black men staying there. The officer texted the others, quote, "Are y'all available for a mission?" That night, without a warrant, the officers burst into the home, handcuffed, beat, tasered the 2 men, Michael Cory Jenkins and Eddie Terrell Parker. Also sexually abused them with a sex toy with shouting racial slurs. One of the officers put a gun in Jenkins' mouth for a mock execution and pulled the trigger. The bullet lacerated Jenkins' tongue, broke his...
Yo, what's poppin', Rick Mill family? What's really going on out here in the world? Like, what's really going on, man? Y'all hear what's going on with these... Yo, first it's the school. We got Diddy. And then now we got Mississippi turning up. We already seen what's locally happening with the kids getting arrested out there in Polk County. Like, that was wild in itself. So now we turning around and we seeing this. I haven't even heard about this issue. This is the first article that I'm actually coming across where we're actually seeing it. But police officers went in there and just demolished some black men, and apparently it's not getting any play because Diddy's issue is overshadowing it. So since it came across my timeline today, I said, hey, what the heck? Let's review it. Let's see what's going on. And shout out to everybody that's been giving me love and support, man. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much. If you can just like, comment, everything helps the algorithm with the video. Also, if you can go ahead and join the Rick Mill family, you are much appreciated. Shout out to everybody that's been joining in on Facebook, TikTok, Twitch, Kick, even here on YouTube, man. I appreciate everybody that's been showing the love and support. So without any more lag of time here, let's go ahead and get into this, man. Let's just see what's popping on with this.
His jaw exited through his neck. This is U.S. Attorney Darren LaMarca last week announcing federal charges against the former officers for the attack.
But not only did they brazenly commit these acts, but after inflicting serious bodily injury by firing a shot through one of the victim's mouths, they left him lying in a pool of blood. Gathered on the porch of the house to discuss how to cover it up.
Do you know how much of a savage you have to be? Do you know how much of a savage you have to be to leave these men out just bleeding out and then go on the porch and say, hey, let's discuss how we're going to cover this up? Do you know how much of a savage you have to be? Like, that's a lack of empathy. Your moral scope is completely out of whack if you're able to just... I mean, where's the morality behind this? Was it just, like, what's the purpose? Like, let's dive in more, man. I mean, the world we live in today is just wild, man.
What indifference. What disregard for life.
After the attack, Michael Cory Jenkins was actually charged with a felony based on methamphetamine the officers said they found in the raid. But records show that was a lie, and the charge was dropped. In fact, the deputies planted drugs to devise an excuse for the raid and also stole surveillance video from the house. Their body cameras were off. Court documents said the officers used the name Goon Squad, quote, because of their willingness to use excessive force and not to report it. The Associated Press found the deputies were linked to at least 4 violent attacks on black men since 2019. 2 of the men died. For more, we're joined by Michael Cory Jenkins and Eddie Terrell Parker, as well as Malik Shabazz, a civil rights attorney with Black Lawyers for Justice, who's representing them. We welcome you all to Democracy Now! Malik, let's begin with you. Can you talk about how this case was exposed, how we saw these officers charged, and what you understand about their background, this not being the first vicious attack.
Okay, thank you for having us on. I want to say before we get started that my
And I mean, before we do get into hearing what they got to say, man, I just got to say, like, they literally just stated this is not the first attack for these officers. It's not the first one. How are you supposed to feel safe in a world like this if the law enforcement? I mean, I personally know officers that don't behave like this, have good moral character. I mean, Mississippi, what's going on out there? Like, somebody, if you from Mississippi, drop a comment down below. Is this like big in Mississippi? Is this story really blowing up? Because it's been quiet. Like, this has been the most quietest that I've heard something this outrageous that nobody's speaking on. I mean, obviously we see what's going on here on this TikTok channel. Shout out to them as well too for giving us some air. But it's just wild that nobody's not saying anything about this. Yo, let's continue and see what's going on.
Michael and Eddie will only be speaking, that they cannot speak about the specific details of what happened in that house that night, but they can talk about their reactions to the guilty verdicts and to their pain and suffering. And Michael is suffering because half of his face is numb. But because we have sentencing coming up, so we're under certain sensitive legal guidelines. But we're happy to be on with such a progressive audience. This case was brought to light through the determination of Black Lawyers for Justice, of myself as the attorney for Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker, and Mississippi Counsel Trent Walker. From early January, we have advocated strongly and vigorously in every way. And we have worked with community activists in Mississippi and throughout the country in order to bring the truth that is coming to light today, that these defendants, Hunter Elwood, Christian Dedman, Brett McAlpin, Middleton, Osdike, and Joshua Hartfield, that they're called the Rankin County Goon Squad. They're known in the community as the Rankin County Death Squad. This has been occurring for a long time under the leadership of Sheriff Brian Bailey, who should be the subject of criminal investigation also. And they have been getting away with this so long that they felt emboldened to act in such a radical and callous way on that night of January 24th, 2023. But it's through persistence. It's through intense legal advocacy, with us advocating to the U.S. Justice Department, collecting evidence and applying legal pressure and all kinds of pressure to bring about what.
You know what's amazing? You know what's amazing? This is just what's being caught about what's going on. This doesn't even really cover the basis of everything that's going on. And this is what's just being caught. So imagine what's really going on behind the scenes that people of real power are able to cover up. I mean, no one's expecting perfection out of anybody. But man, like, if this is just like, if they felt that empowered and arrogant to the point where they felt that they can just do this and get away with it, to go on the front porch and discuss, hey, how are we going to cover this one up? Like, really? That's what we on now? Yo, this is wild, man. This is wild. Let's proceed.
It is now historic. Last Thursday, these 6 defendants pled guilty to 14 federal criminal charges. They'll plead guilty to more state charges Monday. This is the first time, democracy now, this is the first time that a white Mississippi police officer has ever been held criminally responsible for harming a black person. And we know that plenty of police brutality has occurred not only in Rankin County under Brian Bailey, but throughout the state of Mississippi. This is a history-making moment. I'm just so sorry it had to come on the backs of the pain and the suffering, the torture and the shooting and the abuse and waterboarding of Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker, our clients.
I can't bear to go to Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker meeting you in this way for what you went through that horrific January night. But I'm wondering if each of you could respond to the guilty plea of these officers and what it means to you that some of them may be facing life in prison. Michael Jenkins, let's begin with you.
I feel great that we're finally getting justice. You know, after months, you know, at first they didn't even believe us. You know, for a while I didn't think they were gonna even get a slap on the wrist or anything, but I feel great about it.
And I know it's difficult for you to talk with the gun in your mouth. The police shot you through your mouth, lacerating your tongue. It went through to your neck, shredding that area of your neck. I am only glad that you can be with us today. Did you think you were going to survive that night, Michael?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I'm still going through pain right now. My whole face numb, my mouth hurting right now as we speak.
And Eddie Parker, if you can talk about your response to this plea deal.
It's a long time coming. It's something I say there's also history too, you know, coming from a long way of going through this situation with the same police officers, and pretty much you steer clear, you know, to stay out the way so you wouldn't end up in this situation. But ending up in this situation wasn't part of me, you know, staying clear. So I'm astounded. I'm real happy that it's finally come to a point where they're getting a feeling of what they dish out to people, you know, day in, day out.
And I really misspoke because it's not a deal. They have pled guilty. The idea that they call themselves, Eddie Parker, that they call themselves the Goon Squad, your thoughts?
That's the Goon Squad. That seems to be a crime organization I guess they were paid to go out and you know, to stop. But they became that themselves. I believe policing and, you know, the public, you know, go hand in hand. I mean, they're people just like us. You know, they want to be held accountable for, you know, everything they do. They want to get, you know, this, you know, certain, I guess you say, the end of the stick treatment as, you know, being the golden ones, but they're not. They're people just like us. I mean, they go out and they do, you know, the opposite of what they're getting paid to do. I think it's very horrendous how they can call themselves, you know, Goon Squad and, you know, still put on a badge and say they're protecting people.
Malik Shabazz, your lawsuit also mentioned.
You know, shout out to these brothers, man. Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker, man. Like, these brothers, man, that's a lot to go through. That's a hard pill to swallow, man, as I always say. Definitely, if there's any GoFundMes or anything, it'll definitely be in the description below, so y'all can definitely contribute. I'm gonna do some research, see if we can locate that. But yeah, man, this is just crazy, man. To think that these men literally had guns in their mouth, they was beat and tortured, and left for dead, pretty much, just left to bleed out. And then the police officers out on the front porch of wherever the establishment is that they're at, and asking, hey, how can we cover this up? So, like, it's just wild that this is even going on, and this is just what's been brought to the light. Imagine what's really going on behind the scene in the dark world that we live in, man. Let's continue.
Other times, Rankin County Sheriff deputies used excessive force. I want to ask you about Damion Cameron, who died in 2021 after being taken into custody by the same Rankin County Sheriff's deputies who later attacked Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker. This is a clip from a WAPT news report featuring Jenkins' mother, Monica Lee.
A news release from the Rankin County Sheriff's Office says deputies got a call about a burglary and vandalism. When they arrived, Damion was identified as the suspect. The release says as a deputy approached him, he began to fight and resist arrest. They were able to eventually get him into custody and into a patrol car.
And I'm thinking they're taking my son to jail. So I go outside to tell my son goodbye and I love him and I'll be up there tomorrow. At that point, when I got to the side of the truck, my son was laid on the ground, unresponsive.
Monica Lee has said she believes if the sheriff had taken action against the deputies involved in her son's death, maybe they would not have gone on to attack Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker. The lawsuit also holds Sheriff Bailey responsible for failing to properly train the deputies involved in these incidents. This is Rankin County Sheriff Brian Bailey speaking last week about the charges his former deputies pled guilty to.
Based on the facts and their guilty pleas, all of the former deputies lied to me that night of this incident in January. We have cooperated fully with all outside investigating agencies to uncover the truth and bring justice to the victims. We've also sought assistance from outside agencies and consultants to help us in repairing our trust with the community.
So that was Rankin County Sheriff Brian Bailey speaking last week. Malik Shabazz, the civil rights attorney who's brought the lawsuit on behalf of Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker, if you can respond to the sheriff and to this previous case.
Yes. First of all, I want to give honors to Miss Monica Lee, who is the mother of Damion Cameron, attorney Trent Walker, and myself. We represent Miss Monica Lee for the death of Damion Cameron, which occurred at the hands of the Rankin County Sheriff's Department and its officers, including Hunter Elwood, the shooter who didn't just shoot Michael Jenkins in his mouth. He placed the gun inside Michael Jenkins' mouth and held it for an extended period of time, almost up to a minute, before he intentionally shot Michael Jenkins in his mouth, attempting to kill him. Yes, Ms. Lee is correct. If they would not have participated in a cover-up around Damion Cameron's death, Damion Cameron's death is analogous and very similar to George Floyd's death. It was Hunter Elwood and Luke Stickman who put the knees on Damion Cameron's back and on his neck, causing trauma to his neck and causing hemorrhages in both of Damion Cameron's eyes, meaning that the compression on his neck is what led to asphyxiation and his actual cause of death. But the autopsy mysteriously was ruled undetermined. With all of the evidence that I'm saying and all of the gruesome photos of the neck injuries and the hemorrhages of the eyes bulging out of his head, the autopsy finding was mysteriously undetermined. The autopsy itself is missing certain information, and therefore myself and Black Lawyers for Justice, we have our own forensic pathologist who are coming forth shortly to show you that this was a homicide. That's
right.
And that Rankin County and Brian Bailey refused to provide the state medical examiner with information to reach a proper conclusion because they were all protecting the officers from criminal prosecution. Therefore, the autopsy is suspicious. The autopsy and the efforts to have a genuine autopsy, it was covered up by Rankin County. And Brian Bailey has been a part of this. Ms. Lee is correct. If they hadn't been trying to cover up, if Bailey hadn't been trying to justify his officers, no, he didn't just not train them, he has participated in acts of excessive force with his department, according to the courts. When Hunter Elwood shot Pierre Woods in Rankin County on the ground, and he gunned him and he shot him 9 times with his rifle, and the man was no threat to him. Sheriff Bailey was on the scene, and a federal judge ruled that Bailey could not have qualified immunity because he ratified and watched it all go on in person. And so the truth is coming out about the death of Damion Cameron and how they had the knees on his neck like his mother has testified by affidavit to. and they had a knees on his neck that crushed the life out of Damion Cameron, and they did nothing about it. They've lied to us, but we're going to bring that case. That case is coming back to life. Rankin County is in.
What can of worms did Cat Williams open this year? Like, seriously, man. Like, what can of worms did this man open on that Club Shay Shay interview? And y'all all know the Club Shay Shay interview I'm talking about. When Catwoman went crazy, called the Diddy situation. He implicated a whole bunch of other celebrities, said there's more going on that we don't know about, which is likely to come to light due to this Diddy situation. Like, it makes you think, did Cat have some connects that we don't know about? Because he's calling out, we have the YSL case that's getting shown to the whole world how corrupt Georgia has been. Like, that in itself is just wild. And then now we got to go through and see how about what's going to be exposed in this Diddy case. So we might have to go ahead and follow this one too, Rick Mill family, just to see what's going on, because this is crazy. Let's see if we can actually follow this through. Let's see if we can actually get some more details with this and see where this case ends up. It's not getting no press. No one's not hearing.
Infested with white supremacists,
no one's not talking about
Ku Klux Klan. They infiltrated the sheriff's department. Brian Bailey has known about this. Many of these criminals were on duty up until June 1st, only through the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation and U.S. Department of Justice leader Kristen Clark and her Southern District in Mississippi, who've done a great job. Only through their efforts has Brian Bailey, sheriff, trying to come to some remorse. He has not even apologized to the victims. We demand that Brian Bailey step down now. He's a part of a pattern of practice and a culture and a custom of terrorism by his department. We have blacks, whites, rich, poor. They have been beaten by his officers. He's known this all along, and the struggle continues in this case for compensation for these two suffering victims, Jenkins and Parker, but for all of the victims of Rankin County terrorism. It's the #1 county for terrorism and white supremacist infiltration. Case in point, before I close, Christian Detman. It's coming out, he has family members that have pled guilty in Mississippi to hate crimes. I mean, a lot more is going to come out about this. Rankin County is infested with white supremacists, Ku Klux Klan, and it's in the police departments.
And Malik, Shabazz, can you place Rankin County for us in two ways, in history and also just geographically? It's right near Jackson, the capital.
Yes. Attorney Trent Walker says, who grew up in Rankin County, my partner, Attorney Trent Walker, states that this was customary in Rankin County. They beat first and they don't ask questions later. They beat you, they kill you, and you are ordered not to say anything about it. Hunter Elwood, the shooter, actually pled guilty in federal court to another crime he had committed, which contained a similar fact to what he did in the home of Jenkins and Parker. When these deputies busted in to begin this torture session, Hunter Elwood shot his gun off as an intimidation against Jenkins and Parker. Before he shot Michael later, he shot his gun off. Well, he pled guilty in federal court to doing the same thing to another person in Rankin County. He just shooting his gun off like that. So what we're saying, ma'am, is that all of these truths are going to come to light. Rankin County has done this for a long time. It's near Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson, Mississippi, and I believe the county is sort of a reaction to Jackson. Jackson is in Hines County. It's majority black, and there's hostility towards Jackson. And Rankin is like a white enclave that is next to Jackson, and it's set up like almost like a political, social antithesis or against Jackson. And so they're clear in Rankin, just 20 minutes away from Jackson, Mississippi, just like these deputies said. They didn't want any black men living in the area. The mere fact that there were black men in this area, that they were going to carry out this mission and let them know that they were not welcome and they were going to violate all laws and break in. It's because they have determined, I believe these deputies and others in that county have determined that Rankin County is for whites and Hines County is for blacks. And they're going to enforce it under the color of law, through violence and torture. Not to mention, especially on this program, we cannot forget waterboarding. Waterboarding was where the United States military was condemned for using these techniques at the Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq, in the Iraq War. The military denounced this. But in 2023, incredibly, in Rankin County, these deputies, Elwood, McAlpin, Dedman, Updike, Middleton, Hartsfield, they actually waterboarded the two men you see now. They had them on their backs. They had them handcuffs. They had them intimidated, and they were pouring milk, liquids, and grease all over their faces in this insane interrogation and intimidation act. Then after they did all this, can you imagine law enforcement with dildos and sexual devices in their possession, attempting and putting it in the mouths? I hate to say this, that happened to the brothers, but we got to know their pain and suffering. To take a dildo and to shove it in the mouths of handcuffed and bound men, and then waterboard them like that on the ground, and then hurl eggs at them, and then make them strip naked in the shower to try to clean this mess up, strip these men naked in front of these criminals. You know, it just never fails to ignite my passion, and therefore tactically and strategically, we are after Rankin County and we won't let up.
I want to end with the voices of Michael, Cory, Jenkins, and Eddie Terrell Parker. How you have lived through the aftermath of this, the trauma that you have experienced, and what you want to come out of this. I mean, it looks like you are exposing an entire sheriff's department in Mississippi. Let's begin with Eddie Parker.
We want justice. We want justice for everyone that has gone through this with Rankin County or gone through this because of Rankin County. We want justice for the ones that were afraid to speak up. You know, justice for the ones that can't speak up. We want you know, something new and better, and you know, and clean to come out of this.
And Michael Jenkins.
Basically the same thing, to make sure nobody never go through what we went through again. You know, animals don't get treated like this. You know, I ain't never seen no animal get treated like this.
Well,
just to make sure.
I just want to thank you, Michael, Cory Jenkins, and Eddie Terrell Parker, for your bravery in coming forward and telling your stories. And also, I want to thank Malik Shabazz, the civil rights attorney with Black Lawyers for Justice.
So what do y'all think about this, man? Like, what in the M-I, cricket letter I, humpback I is going on in the world today? Yo, shout out to these brothers for the bravery and everything that they've been through. That's so much trauma. Like, that's gonna be with them for the rest of their lives. And I'm sure they're thankful that they even be. Like I'm saying, we're gonna look for a GoFundMe. If you in the Rick Mill family contribute, go ahead. I'll drop the link. It's just wild that nothing like this is getting any press, but it is what it is. We're going to continue to see if we can follow this story. Shout out to everybody that's been showing love and support. And if there's anything additional coming up in regards to Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker, we'll do a part 2. While you can, just go ahead and subscribe, like, comment on the video. And I appreciate the love and support. I hope that y'all have a wonderful day, man, and y'all enjoy this weekend. Take care.